Hi, everyone. It's so great to be with you here today. My name is Anders, and I'm on the product marketing team at Spotify. I work every day to deliver best-in-class experiences for creators across our podcasts and audiobooks businesses. And I'm so excited to be here discussing our integration with Riverside, an incredible creation platform that we've brought directly into the Spotify for Podcasters web experience. Riverside offers our creators access to some of the most advanced recording and editing tools available in the world today. And by bringing the experience right inside Spotify for Podcasters, we are able to make it easier than ever to up-level your podcast with both audio and video. And if you're joining this webinar as an existing Riverside user who wants to learn more about Spotify for Podcasters, I'm going to walk you through some helpful information on that today too. I'm also joined by Stephen from Riverside, and Lloyd George will join us soon, who's a brilliant creator who utilizes both Riverside and Spotify for Podcasters. All right, let's get into it. So to get started, I'm going to introduce you all to Spotify and Spotify for Podcasters. Now, I'm sure as many of you are aware, Spotify is the largest audio streaming service in the world, with over 615 million users using our service across 184 markets each month to find their next great listen across music, audio, books, audio podcasts, and video podcasts. And video has become core to the podcasting experience on Spotify, with over 250,000 podcasts having already published video on the platform. And it's not just video. Across our interactivity tools like Q&A and polls, creators can adopt new ways to engage their audience by polling them on custom questions or asking for replies to a question you may ask about your show or your content. These tools enable fan-to-creator engagement while putting the creator first, ensuring you can control your experience on Spotify by choosing which Q&A responses to make public, for example. In addition, creators in eligible markets can also access the Spotify Audience Network, a robust ad platform that enables you to monetize your content both on and off Spotify. So, how do creators access all these tools? Well, it gets started with Spotify for Podcasters. Spotify for Podcasters is a free all-in-one solution to create, grow, manage, and monetize your show on Spotify. Like I mentioned, we're a completely free hosting platform with free access to Riverside right inside of our product, so you pay nothing to create and publish your podcast with us. Plus, if you monetize your podcast, you can actually make money by using Spotify for Podcasters. And really what we see is that creators around the world have fallen in love with our service. In fact, Spotify-hosted shows dominate the growth in podcasting. In our data, we see that 80% of the growth in our global podcast catalog has been driven by creators like yourself who may be using Spotify for Podcasters. So at its core, Spotify for Podcasters is a free, unlimited hosting solution with RSS distribution. Creators who use the product get access to podcasting not only on Spotify, but also distribution to other listening platforms through their RSS feed, like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and others. If a listening platform accepts an RSS feed, you can submit your Spotify for Podcasters feed, and your episodes will be distributed there. If you host your show with another platform, switching to Spotify for Podcasters is going to likely save you money and get you access to the full suite of tools we have available, including creation with Riverside, built directly into our product. To get started with that, just go to podcasters.spotify.com/switch. So I mentioned that video podcasts are core to the podcast experience on Spotify. With over 250,000 creators having published video already, it's clear that this format is resonating with creators and fans alike. We find that creators who publish video podcasts actually see increases in episode listenership and retention on average. This is driven by the over 170 million fans that have already watched video on Spotify, a number that has increased 40% year over year. And if you publish video to Spotify, we will also distribute that video as audio on other podcast platforms through your RSS feed. It really is so easy to take advantage of this format on our platform, including with tools like Riverside. So finally, I want to just touch on creation with Riverside. We've partnered with Riverside for the past few years to make it easier for our creators to use Riverside's robust set of tools to create audio and video podcasts, and then to publish those episodes back to Spotify for podcasters. A few months ago, we launched an improved integration that brings the Riverside product right into Spotify for podcasters. Simply put, it's a great way for our creators to record and edit podcast episodes with ease. And to show you how it works, I'm going to pass it over to Stephen.
Thanks, Anders. I'm going to start a screen share here and walk you guys through what it looks like to create with Spotify for podcasters and then record with Riverside, both audio only and adding video to your show. So what you'll see here is a free Spotify for Podcasters account that I actually just created. So everything you're about to see is what you get for free, both with Spotify for Podcasters and with Riverside. So when I'm ready to create my first or a new episode for my podcast, I'll click New Episode here in Spotify for Podcasters. And to record, you'll see a Go to Riverside button right here. And this is where you can record your audio or video content. Once you click that, you'll actually be brought to the Riverside platform. You'll still see Spotify for Podcasters at the top. And I can go to Record an Episode and choose Video and Audio or Record Audio Only. So let's record audio only, and we'll show you the Riverside Studio. Right here, this is what it looks like when you record with Riverside. And you'll see my video is on right now. If I wanted to, I could disable that. And I also can choose my microphone and my headphones or speaker output. So I can invite a remote guest to record with me, whether it's a co-host or other remote guest. You'll see an invite button up here. When I click that, you'll see a guest link that I can copy, and someone else can open that in Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge on their computer, or even use the Riverside app on their iPhone, Android device, or iPad to come in and record with me. Now you'll also see some helpful tools here on the side, and we don't have time to get into all of this, but I would encourage you on our Riverside YouTube channel and in our documentation, we talk about all the features that you have available to you. Here you'll see the audio levels, so I can make sure I'm being recorded audio-wise. I can see information about the devices being used, my resolution, and more. Let's say I invited someone already to record, or maybe I'm recording a solo podcast. I'm just going to hit the record button down here at the bottom and start recording. I'll get a countdown so you can get ready and prepare your intro, however you're going to record. And once it starts, you'll see now we're recording. That record button now has a timer going up, so I know how long I've been recording. You'll see a record button up here, so I know I'm live. And for me and any other remote guests I have, you'll see the little record tab here on the right as well. You'll also notice that there's a percentage uploaded at the top, and that's important. When you record with Riverside, we're actually recording locally on device, both audio and if you do audio and video. That means you get the highest quality video and audio possible. Then those local files on your device are actually uploaded in real time. This way, when you edit it or even download those files later, you get high quality video and audio. So let's say I'm done recording, which I can also screen share. There's a media board where I can share media files or play them live as we record, and that'll be available to you in the editor. There's also a chat where you can talk to your other guests, producers, or if you're doing a live stream like we are, you could do that as well. So I'm going to stop the recording here, and you'll see that the audio and video files will finish uploading completely. It usually happens pretty quick. You'll see it's successfully uploaded, and now I can go edit this recording also using Riverside. And the editing part is free as well. You get unlimited recording and editing with Spotify for Podcasters and when you edit with Riverside. And this is what the Riverside editor looks like. You get this transcript of the entire recording, everything I just said, and editing this is as easy as editing a Word document. I can select text, and if I want to remove it, I just click delete. I can also go through and search the transcript if I'm looking for a specific word or timestamp, and it will show me all the results in the transcript and where it appears in the timeline at the bottom. And if you're more comfortable editing with audio waveforms and via the timeline, I can zoom in. I'll see my entire audio recording down here. I can click the playhead wherever I would like, split it like I'm using a video or audio editor, delete sections, move them around, and more. I can also add an intro or outro to my podcast by clicking the plus button at the beginning or the end. And not only can I upload an intro that I may have already created, I can also add music in the background. You'll also see an add music option here, and I can choose from a stock-free audio library built right into Riverside. I can choose any of this intro music. I would see it appear here in the timeline. I can move it around, intro, outro, or play it in the middle, and even adjust the volume of that background music, all right here in Riverside. Then there's a bunch of other tools I'm going to show you in a moment when we record with video, but I can export this audio and it will send it directly back to Spotify for podcasters, ready for me to create a new episode. So I can choose an MP3 file, which is great for podcast hosting. I can normalize audio levels to make sure everyone's the same volume, and I can export this audio to Spotify. It'll take all those edits I just made, take this MP3 file, and send it over to my Spotify account, and I can finish publishing that episode. Title, description, everything else you do for your podcast. You see right here, now I'm back in Spotify for podcasters. I can give a title to my episode, a description, and after a few seconds, I'm ready to publish this new episode. So in the same way, I can actually save this as a draft. Let's create a new episode, and let's do a video version. I can go back to Riverside, and right here at the Create an Episode portion, I'll do record video and audio. Even if you don't plan on publishing the full video version of your podcast, having the video recording is extremely helpful, especially where you're going to promote your podcast on social media. If you're doing vertical video clips or take advantage of Spotify's video podcasts, we highly recommend using video, especially for discovery. So the recording process is the same for video, but I do want to show you what it looks like when I edit video. This was an episode I recorded recently with a very good friend of mine. You might recognize him. But this is what the editor looks like. And just like before, I can edit just by selecting words and phrases and then clicking the delete button. And you'll see the intro is right here. So I'm actually going to split it. I'll cut this little intro out where we were talking beforehand. And now we have the beginning of the website. Let me refresh here. I had this tab loaded for a while. So that's why I did that. But I can also include it for free with Spotify for Podcasters and Riverside. You can also do something which is magic clips. I can generate magic clips, which uses AI. It takes my entire podcast recording, and this is why video is really helpful, and it will automatically make vertical clips with animated captions. Again, this is included for free with Spotify for Podcasters and Riverside. And then I can jump in and edit these vertical clips further, and it's engaging moments of the podcast, and I can share those on social media. So going back into the editor, I'll show you some of our other tools. Not only can you add background music, edit via transcript, we do have AI chapters, so we'll add chapters to your video, and that's helpful too. You can copy the chapters and paste them in like descriptions for your video. And we have a bunch of tools here on the right side. All this is available to you, like setting the pace. This removes the perfect amount of silence. I can crank this up, maybe if I'm thinking about sharing a clip to social media, so I want to cut out the most amount of silences. It will tell me how many pauses, how many seconds are cut. I can click apply, and it'll cut out all the silent parts. I can also remove filler words with smooth speech. I can also apply magic mute, which cuts out parts of the tracks where someone's not talking, really helps clean up that audio. And I can do things like adjusting the layout. So maybe I want to add spacing between me and my guest. I can go up to brand, maybe add a background image, and we have a bunch of stock images available to you. And look how quickly I can change the format. Maybe I want to make this a vertical clip, one click away, and now I can share this on social media. I can add the animated captions, lots of built-in styles to choose from, and I can go further in and edit these, different active word highlights and color. And now I'm quickly creating these clips really in just a few seconds. Plus we have tools like text overlays, image overlays, and you can upload your own video, audio, and images to put on top of the clips. Then when you're ready to export, it'll send that video directly back to Spotify or audio. And if you want to do both, you can export a video file, choose keep editing, and then you can go back and create an audio file as well. And I can just jump over to audio, and from one recording, one time editing, I have both my video file and audio, and I can publish that right back to Spotify. And we have a bunch of resources for you on riverside.fm and all the videos on our YouTube channel that explains even more about features and features coming up very soon, which are really exciting, and some of our live streaming tools as well. So that's creating with Spotify for Podcasters and Riverside. And now we want to bring up one of our special guests, which is Lloyd George. He's an incredible creator and podcaster. And welcome, Lloyd. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Anders, Steven, so excited to be here with you both. That was amazing. I'm super pumped up. I'm a podcaster. I've been obsessed with podcasts since 2016. I started my first podcast called Foreign Made in 2018, which essentially highlighted and celebrated immigrant founders. Since 2020, I've been creating podcast tips on TikTok, helping people start and grow their podcast.
That's awesome, Lloyd. Well, I think we have a couple questions for you. Anders, did you want to kick it off?
Yes, I'd love to. Lloyd, thanks for being here. It's so great to hear how you're using our tools to further your podcast, and it's great to hear. My first question is really if you can dive deeper into just that, and how have you been using the Riverside and Spotify integration?
Yeah, thanks, Anders. I think for me, this integration is so exciting because I think it represents simplicity. And I find that the longer I've been podcasting, the more complex my podcast recording process has gotten. You add these layers in hopes of making your podcast better, whether it's, adding in a new editing tool or adding you a new clips tool. And with this integration, the fact that you can do all of that from one place to me just highlights that I could benefit from simplifying my recording flow a little more in hopes of being a lot more consistent.
That's awesome. So you talked a little bit about already how this partnership will help creators, but I'm going to go off the cuff, Lloyd. I hope this is all right. How do you think how important do you think video is for creators, especially when promoting their podcast, getting out there on all the different social media networks? And now that Spotify has videos right there in the app, tell us a little bit how maybe you've experienced the benefit of video and how important that is for creators to integrate.
That's such a great question. I was laughing a little bit earlier when I heard the stat that Anders brought up, because I was at a conference a while back and I ran across someone that said he only consumes video podcasts in the Spotify app. He literally doesn't listen to any audio, with which that just blew my mind. But it does highlight the importance of video in the world of podcasting. And so I think if you're a new podcaster, coming in and seeing an integration like this lowers the barrier and the amount of effort it takes to now start publishing video. I mean, this integration literally makes it just as easy to publish video and audio content. There isn't that discrepancy anymore. And I think for more existing podcasters, I think being able to look at, for myself, I was using one tool to edit the audio for my podcast, one tool to edit the video for my podcast, one tip to do the clips, one tip to do the transcription. So the fact that as an existing podcaster, you can simplify your workflow a little more and kind of get rid of some of the platforms you no longer need, I think just helps you publish even more video content.
That's amazing. Thanks so much, Lloyd, for joining us. And we're going to get into some Q&A. So appreciate you coming, Lloyd, and your insight.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Lloyd.
All right, I think we have a bunch of Q&As, Anders, from the chat.
That sounds great. Well, why don't we just jump in with the first one I'm seeing on the list here that I have. A question from Michael. How many different podcasts can I host on Spotify for podcasters? And there's actually not really limits here. So you can go ahead and create additional shows from your Spotify for podcasters account and create as many shows really as you'd like. There really shouldn't be much for limits here, and go knock yourself out. Start creating podcasts for the world to see and potentially hear.
That's awesome. And the second question is, curious if I can upload existing video podcasts to my existing Spotify podcast, or if I would need to change how it's set up.
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's something that we actually just recently expanded our availability for. So now all podcasts, regardless of where you host that podcast, whether it's with Spotify for podcasters or a different podcast hosting solution, have access to video podcasts on Spotify. So if you host with us, the solution's really simple. You just go ahead and upload a video file the same way you would upload a audio file to Spotify for podcasters. And we'll go ahead and distribute the video to Spotify, and we'll distribute the audio everywhere else through your RSS feed. And if you host with us, that also allows you to use the great tools of Riverside that Stephen just presented a few minutes back. If you don't host your podcast with us, you can actually now go into Spotify for Podcasters, your Spotify for Podcasters account that you have, no matter kind of where you host your podcast, and you can find any published audio episode, and you'll actually have the ability to add video to it. You can do that right from the episode menu, and you can go ahead and upload a video version of that file. If you created it in Riverside, I think you can download the file from Riverside and then re-upload it through Spotify for Podcasters that way. And it's a great way for you to be able to add video for your fans on Spotify, even if you're hosting it with a different hosting platform.
I actually just started doing that for one of my shows, Anders. So yes, you can download the video from Riverside, upload it directly to Spotify for Podcasters dashboard, and it worked great. So, and that question was from Tyler Stallman. He's an amazing YouTube creator. Love his podcast as well. I was a guest on it for a while, so thank you for that, Tyler. One question is from someone: can you schedule a recording session with a guest? And so, real quick, I'll just show what it looks like to schedule one. Here in Riverside, you can plan a recording. And once you create your Spotify for Podcasters account, you can use that same login to get into Riverside. And then this is what you access that way. You can invite someone to record. And the great thing about Riverside is this guest link will actually always be the same. It's persistent. So if you have a regular co-host you want to record with, you guys put this link in the event, whatever calendar event you created, and you can always use that same link. And in the same way, you can send an email with that guest link. This way someone can have it in the future. And we have a schedule in Google Calendar option, which is actually going to put some instructions to help them get the best quality recording possible and give them an event that they can add to their calendar with the guest link automatically. So scheduling recording, super easy for in the future when you have remote guests.
I think it's so cool when I get those Google Calendar invites with the link to join with Riverside. It's a great experience.
For sure. This next question, I think it's a little technical. If two hosts that are in different locations log into the same Spotify for Podcasters account, how can they do that to record through Riverside? And so what we would recommend for that is someone can log into Spotify for Podcasters, click create a new episode, and get to the Riverside recording studio, and then send that guest link to the other person. And like I mentioned, the guest link is the same every time. And this way, multiple remote guests, I believe it's up to 8 simultaneously, can do that. Have them join with the guest link rather than trying to log into that same account because there's a bunch of other features that are tied to that. So that would be our recommendation for that. Let's see what else we have.
I think there might be a question here from Bailey, which is, how do I get Spotify to push my show out to other platforms so that people who don't have Spotify can listen in other ways? And Spotify for Podcasters offers free RSS distribution. So if you are creating a podcast that you host with us, in your podcast settings, you'll find the RSS feed. And what you do is you just go to any other podcast platform. Let's say it's Apple Podcast. You can log into Apple Podcast Connect and you can submit your RSS feed to them. And as soon as that gets published through Apple, they kind of own that process. Any new episode that you publish through Spotify for Podcasters will become available on Apple Podcasts. So that's just one example if I use Apple, but really any podcast hosting or listening platform out there, there's a bunch of them. You just submit your RSS feed that you get through Spotify for Podcasters, and that's it. Just publish through Spotify for Podcasters, and your episode will be available everywhere that you've submitted your RSS feed.
Awesome. This was a question from Colleen. Anders, if you want to answer it, or I can we only use video recording on Riverside on the computer, or can you use these features on the Spotify Podcasters app?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm happy to take kind of how it works with the Spotify for Podcasters experience, but Stephen, if you want to take the mobile experience overall, that'd be great. So the Riverside integration and how that's built into Spotify for Podcasters, that's only available in our web experience. So you would need to use a computer to kind of access Riverside natively within Spotify for Podcasters. But Stephen, why don't you talk about mobile kind of more generally with Riverside?
Yeah, so there's a free Riverside app you can download for iPhone, Android, and iPad. You can still log in with your Spotify login. So the same login you use for Spotify for Podcasters, log into the Riverside app. And then right here in the app, you can record, you can view it, and we just announced at our latest event that we have mobile editing coming very soon. So you can watch that video over on our YouTube channel, which you're here right now watching this live stream. So you can check out that June launch video where we kind of previewed that. That editing is coming very soon. But right now, you can record all on mobile, and we have videos on the channel as well where you can plug in a USB mic to an iPhone or an iPad, use that built-in camera, and you're going to get a super high-quality video podcast with just a mobile device. And so it's really powerful, and the editing is coming soon.
That's awesome. I can't wait to try the editing. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. Let's see. Another question from Alexander. Do guests need to have a Riverside app to join a recording? If they're on a computer, they can just join in a web browser, Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. If they're on a mobile device, they do need the Riverside app. They don't need to sign in. They don't need to create a Riverside account or anything like that. They just need the app on their device. So when you send them that guest link, it'll automatically open in the Riverside app and they'll be off and running, recording. Let's see what else we have. I'm going to try to pronounce this name. Forgive me. Alincia from the Alincia Experience said, can we share clips related to the discussion in your Riverside studio? So what I showed you with the magic clips, and sharing clips, let me answer it this way. Yes, the answer is yes. And what you can do is when you're looking at a previous recording, so like right here, this is my interview, I can actually click this share button here at the top, copy this link, send it to someone, maybe like an editor or producer, and they can actually access the clips that I have exported. And in the same way, if you have magic clips that you've exported, I can copy this link here, send that to someone, and then they can download this vertical clip. Maybe you have a social media manager, they can share it that way. One of the paid upgrades for Riverside is access to the individual recording files, like the uncompressed wave and individual separate video tracks for all of your guests. That's part of our standard and pro feature. And if you're on that and you share this link to the recording, then someone who receives that link can also download those separate tracks. But yes, you can share them, your exports, magic clips, and all of that, super flexible for you. Let's see. Does Riverside, this is from Erica. Does Riverside handle weak audio from, say, a guest on Zoom that doesn't have a very good setup? Well, they wouldn't be on Zoom. They would be at Riverside. Wink. But we do handle weak audio, that normalized audio that I showed you in the editor. That actually does a lot of work to make it the same volume. And we do have on our Pro and Standard plans a feature called Magic Audio, which can take any microphone, whether there's background noise, echo, maybe it's a built-in iPhone microphone, and Magic Audio is going to make it sound studio quality. We have videos on our YouTube channel where you can kind of see before and after examples of that, but even just the normalized audio feature is going to help someone with lower volume be brought up, so that's even in the final recording. Let's see, I'm trying to find one for you, Anders. I don't want to dominate the Q&A.
There's one here around, can we still batch record and schedule episodes to come out later from, it sounds like the podcast, Finding the Beautiful in You. And if you host your podcast with Spotify for Podcasters, you can absolutely batch record and schedule episodes. If you're trying to use video and you host your podcast with a different platform, you have to publish the podcast through your hosting platform before you can add video to it. So you can still go ahead and schedule it through your hosting platform and it'll distribute to Spotify at the time the episode's scheduled to go live, but you won't be able to add the video to it until it's actually live on Spotify. But if you do host with us, you can get access to scheduling kind of built in, just how it normally would work.
And you can batch record. So if you want to record a bunch of video episodes, Spotify for Podcasters to Riverside and back, at the very last step, you just schedule it for the date and time you want to publish, and it works great that way too.
Sounds great. Stephen, I'm loving all these questions that you're getting, by the way. I think this shows how exciting the tools are that you offer with Riverside and how great it is to have these built right into Spotify for Podcasters.
Appreciate it. Yeah, well, and speaking of that, this question is from Nam Fanello. Any tips on making video podcasts more engaging? This is a great question. I do a video podcast myself using Riverside. If you were here at the beginning, you might have seen a countdown video that we played right here in the webinar. We've been sharing our screen, and you can upload any video clips or audio clips to play while you record. And so what I do is I try to incorporate as many screen shares, video shares using our media board, and all those elements to really make a video podcast more engaging. And then using the Magic Clips feature, then you can find, using AI, find the most engaging moments of that recording. This is where you can share the best parts for social media, and use our image overlays for those magic clips and text overlays to add visuals even in those 1-minute clips to make even those more engaging. So media board, screen shares, and audio and video files shared during the recording for sure. Let's see. I might need to check my glasses prescription. This text is very small, Anders. I'm working on it. Let's see. This is asked by Ashley. I have pre-recorded bits of audio I need to put in at different times when I'm editing. Any way to make this easier? I was trying to add it and it was difficult to split and put in. It's a great question. And so I want to show you this feature in the Riverside editor. So I showed you can actually upload clips right here, split them in between. Well, when you do that, take this interview, for example. Maybe I want to splice in a clip, an audio clip right here. Well, I'm going to split these two sections. And when I roll my mouse over in the middle, you actually see a little plus icon appear. And when I click that, I can insert from various sources, both the stock music library built into Riverside, something I upload, like you were saying, something you prepare, but even edits from other recordings in my Riverside account. So if I go to edits, I'll actually see little clips here that are in my other studios and in other recordings, past episodes. And I can actually insert any of these clips into this edit and it'll put it all together, even pulling in the transcript from that other clip right here in this final edit. So this is a quick way to insert a bunch of different video or audio clips into one recording. And one other quick tip, if you're trying to either create clips for social media or you just want like this section right here as its own clip, well, I can select that text, hit the three dots, and then we have a keep only this option. And when I select that, it will actually delete everything from this clip. If you didn't delete the originals, you can always go back and create more clips. But now I just have that text I selected as this 26-second clip, and this is an edit that I can then insert somewhere else. So extremely flexible. You can do this as many times as you would like, cut and splice, and then insert wherever you need in future episodes. So pretty cool tools. All right, let's get back to the doc here. Let me see. A bunch of questions. Thank you all for participating in the chat and for watching. It's a lot of fun. Let's see. Do we have to create a separate Spotify and Spotify for Podcasters account? This might be a question for you, Anders.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. So Spotify for Podcasters works with any Spotify account. So if you have an account that you use to access the Spotify app on your phone, that you could use that to log into Spotify for Podcasters. Other podcasters will choose to make a separate Spotify account that might be specific to your podcast. So really, it's up to you. You can create a Spotify account specifically for Spotify for Podcasters, or you can use one that you might already have from your listening that you probably do on your phone or in your personal time. And the great news is that you can also log into Riverside with that exact same Spotify account. So it's not a requirement that you do it that way. Stephen, keep me honest there. But we do think that's an easy way for you to quickly access Riverside right within Spotify for Podcasters, again, using that one same Spotify login.
That's awesome. Yes, you are correct too. This is a great question from Craft Beer Professionals. I'm going to have to start listening to that. I use the same intro for all my podcast episodes. Previously, podcasters Spotify allow me to upload a library of content. Can you do this with Riverside? The answer is yes, once again. So I'll share my screen real quick, and I'll go to the editor, and you'll see here in this Uploads tab in the editor, you can upload video clips like this intro, audio clips, or images, and these uploads will stay persistent for all your future recordings. So if you want to add the same intro every time, I can just click the plus button, click Uploads, and all the video clips and audio clips that you've added there will be inserted automatically. And you don't have to re-upload it every time. So you can for sure have that library of content that you use on a regular basis. And I think we have a couple other ones. Let's see. Does Riverside allow for two? This is from Mike Manifestation Podcast. Does Riverside allow for two in-house hosts and co-hosts versus remote guests with separate audio? We actually have a bunch of videos on our YouTube channel on how to do hybrid recording. This is a often requested kind of tutorial where if you have someone in person in the studio with you and a remote guest, yes, you can do it with Riverside and get separate tracks for it. And I would, on our Riverside YouTube channel, youtube.com/RiversideFM, search for hybrid, and you'll find several videos where I talk through that whole setup. And we have a video coming soon on how to do all in-person recording using Riverside and, of course, Spotify for Podcasters as well. So, yes, you can.
Sounds great. I see a question here from Julie that if I'm a podcast newbie with only a Riverside.fm account and not a Spotify account yet, do I start my new Spotify account using my Riverside FM account credentials? So you can't log into Spotify for Podcasters with a Riverside account, but you could certainly use the same email address you use to access Riverside. Really, that's up to you. You can just create a Spotify account with whatever email address you want, and then once you're into Spotify for Podcasters, you'll be able to basically link that with your existing Riverside account, whether or not that's the same email address. So a really easy solution there for you.
That's great. And then another question is, can we watch this video again later? Yes, absolutely. This will be on the Riverside channel to watch, and I'm not sure where else, but yes, you'll be able to rewatch it for sure.
I see another question here from Bizan. It says, can I add a subscription option so people can pay with subscription to watch my films? And yes, Spotify for Podcasters does offer podcast subscriptions. So you can set your content to be behind a subscription. You can set the price for that, and and your fans can see that subscription option and subscribe right using the Spotify app.
Awesome. Another question here from Retro Tech with the caramel apples. Oh, did you say caramel or caramel? I don't know which one of them.
I say caramel. I'm from the Midwest. I don't know what you say, Stephen.
I'm from New York. I think caramel is still holding on. So he was asking, will it be easy or accessible to add outside WAV files into Riverside versus how we used to be able to? And just like I showed you a few moments ago, that upload panel in the Riverside editor, yes, you'll be able to upload those files right there. It'll stay in that library for you to use in the future. And if you want to use them live while you record, that's the media board in the Riverside studio, and you can upload audio files there, and they will stay persistently from recording to recording. So if you have some sound effects you'd like to use, audience laughter or applause, things like that, you can upload them, and they will stay there in your studio for every time you record. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, well, I think we might have answered most of them, Anders. I think we ran through them. Let's see.
It looks like it. There's another question from craft beer professionals around, can you go into a few more details around uploading multiple files and editing them to make one episode in Riverside? Do you want to overview that a little bit?
For sure, yeah. Like I was showing before, that upload is from anywhere. I was highlighting that you can pull in other edits from your Riverside account, but this uploads tab, you can upload any file from your computer and it will go right here in the edit. This could be a video file, this could be an audio file, whatever you want to upload. And once you upload it, you'll see it insert right here in the project, and you can zoom in and it's just right there. You can move it around, split your content more if you need to, move it that way, and grab onto those arrows and move it around. So yeah, you can upload as much as you want from your computer directly into this editor and edit however you would like. And intro, outro, in the middle, wherever, you can do it.
Great, thanks so much. And I see one more question popped up here from Lenora, which is, do we need to specifically sign up for Riverside, or will Spotify for podcasters automatically transition? And I think how the experience works, Stephen, keep me honest here, is that you log into Spotify for podcasters using that Spotify account. If you haven't yet signed up for Riverside, the first time you access the Riverside integration, you're going to see a login screen or a sign up screen, and you can just hit sign up or log in with Spotify, whatever the exact text says, and that's it. It's going to utilize that Spotify account. It'll get you into Riverside and set up, and then you can go ahead and start recording and editing with Riverside's tools, all within the Spotify for Podcasters web experience, and then just export that back to Spotify for Podcasters when you're ready to publish.
That's absolutely right. The first time you do it, you hit that create episode button and you get sent over to Riverside. You don't have to create another login. Just hit the login with Spotify button and use those same credentials. And then you'll now have a Riverside account with those same credentials to use however you'd like. All right. Well, this is from Han Tulu. Question: AI is getting complicated daily. Do you have plans to always add new AI features to Riverside? Well, that's a great question. It's a softball. I appreciate it. So yes, we're adding AI tools to Riverside all the time. And we talked about a couple of them, like remove filler words and things like that. But if you go to the Riverside recordings page, and some of these features are on our Pro and Standard plans, but we have AI-generated show notes where you can click a button and automatically we're going to give you titles, summaries, descriptions, and even timestamps. All that's going to be generated via AI. We also have those magic clips, which uses AI to find those engaging moments and create those vertical clips for you right here. We also have some other features coming very soon, like AI voice, where you can actually do text to speech in your voice generated right here in Riverside, because your voice is in these recordings in your studio, and you'll be able to use that as well. And that's one of the things that Riverside is really trying to find ways to use AI that's useful and productive to you. So let's say you misspoke in one of your recordings and you just need to say a different number or a different stat. Well, you can use AI voice to generate that and then insert it into an edit for your podcast. So we have lots of AI tools right now and many more coming soon.
Cool, that's great. Stephen, this has been so helpful. It's been so great to talk to you about Spotify for Podcasters, about Riverside, and all of the great new opportunities that this integration presents for creators. Before I wrap up, is there any last things that you want to say to the folks here that are learning about Riverside for the first time?
You know, I've been a personal user of Riverside even before I joined the team, and I do a video podcast every week, and I would not be able to sustain it without Riverside's tools. We do like an hour and a half long recording. That full video, I have it in my Spotify podcast, and then I use those magic clips on social media, and I've found it just an incredible way to grow your podcast audience. And so I would encourage you, especially those who maybe been podcasting for a long time, hesitant about video. Now is the time. Now is the time to add it. Riverside makes video easy. both editing and recording. And again, we have lots of resources to help you get started, even if it's just with your mobile device. You can get great quality video right from here, an inexpensive USB mic, and you can get your story told in a compelling and an effective way. And we're excited to see the kind of stories and creators coming through for Spotify for Podcasters and Riverside.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Stephen. It's, like I said, really exciting to see the amazing tools and features that Riverside is releasing each and every day, it seems like, to make it easier than ever for creators to create amazing audio and video podcasts with your solution. And we're so excited to have that as a part of Spotify for Podcasters. We think it is the forefront of creation tools. And like I said, we're just so excited to have that as a part of our experience. So I want to thank you for being part of this experience today. It's been so fun to chat with you about all the different tools that creators can use to take their podcasts to the next level with Riverside and Spotify for Podcasters. I also want to say a huge thank you to Lloyd for coming in and sharing a little bit about his creation experience. His podcasts are amazing. I love listening and watching them. And we're just so grateful to you all for tuning into this webinar and learning a bit more about Riverside and Spotify for Podcasters. We look forward to listening and watching many of your shows on Spotify now and in the future. Thanks all.
Thank you.